Hi, I'm Trina Young, the Elvis News and Travel Examiner and host of Trina's Virtual Tours. Come visit Tupelo with me as I interview the sculptor of this beautiful statue of Elvis Presley at age 13. His name is Michiel VanderSommen, and he will share the fascinating behind the scenes in making this sculpture that resides next to Elvis Presley's birthplace in Mississippi. Michiel also sculpted the Becoming statue, which we will talk about in a separate video.
I did a whole sculpture from photographs, and the face too. I had many photographs given to me by the birthplace from his face, and I do also a little bit of forensic sculpture. Forensic sculpture is facial reconstruction from if people have deceased or something. Anyway, I took that face from several pictures and I assembled basically the head of Elvis.
One of the most accurate I've ever seen.
Is that right? It's basically he has a very distinct nose. And of course this was very important to Henry Dodge too. He really wanted to have this thing in there. But yeah, he has a very distinct nose and a very distinct chin and his cheekbones. And I want to make sure that was in there. It's kind of important because that makes, and he has droopy eyes, and all that the characteristics, I want to make sure that's in there. A boy in town here, but about 12, 13, 14 years old, and they dressed him up in the coveralls like that, and he posed for pictures for somebody else. Somebody else took the pictures, not me. And Henry Dodge Baby said, well, this is supposed to be like the theater. And then he wanted to have the sagging coveralls too big. And Henry Dodge sent me the guitar by FedEx. It made me very nervous, but anyway. And it had, I still remember, the guitar had tape on them.
So they sent you the actual guitar that Elvis used?
That's what I was told, yes. And so I was sitting in my basement studio, had the tape on it, and I sculpted it with the tape. And Henry Dodge said, no, the tape has to come off because this was just for shipping. so it didn't fall apart. So I took the tape back off again. But this is really the original, a copy of the original guitar.
Wow.
That his mother bought for him.
Wow.
How long did it take me to do this?
Yes.
About to sculpt it. Took about 3, 4, 5 months to sculpt the thing, to have it ready for mold making and inspection, because I make the sculpture first like that, and then it has to be approved by Henry Dodge. That's what you want. Then it's in play, and then it gets approved. I put my signature on it. See what happened? What happened was that originally the sculpture, I had put it on a bronze plaque, bronze circle, like you do a drop, and I had my signature in there. But then Henry Dodge asked me to take the base off and put it right on the brick. So that made my signature disappear. And so I asked the foundry to write it back in there in the wax stage.
Okay.
And that's what they did. I like Elvis a lot. I mean, I think he's a very talented man, but also he had some charisma, and I like his attitude and his vision. I do like his music. I have most of his records, and I like his life. I admire what he committed to the music, and I like what he talks about, what he sings about.
Now, did you grow up in the Netherlands?
Oh yeah, I lived in the Netherlands until I was 27 years old.
Wow.
And so I went to school there, I went to engineering school, and then I came over to Canada actually. I came from Holland to Canada first, and did all kinds of jobs basically. Not as a sculptor yet, but I learned to sculpt there I lived in Toronto at the time, and I saw those big statues, bronze statues, and I was, as an engineer, I was just intrigued from how do they do that? How do they make those sculptures in bronze? And I started studying, getting books on how to do this, and I was more interested in the technique actually. See, my dad never wanted me to become an artist. That was a no-no in the family. No artist in the family. You gotta make money, you know. So I was kind of steered away from it. But when let's get back to the whole story. I was so intrigued with how to make sculptures. I started getting books and how to make molds, how the process works. And in a few months, I started building my own foundry with pots and pans and kettles and stuff that I could find. And I made my own burners and my own wax kiln. And before you know it, I had a foundry in my hand. And I got the first commission from a town nearby in Montrose, Virginia. I made the first Vietnam veteran memorial, and bust from an infantryman. The town of Montrose, Virginia, they had a lot of veterans that lost their lives. The first Vietnam veteran memorial in the United States. And from there it just started rolling. And I got one commission after the other. And I never went back to engineering again. So I just had too much fun doing it. So what you do is you make sure you're a step ahead of nature. And you spray a chemical on here, potash, that makes it black. Okay? And then you rub it off a little bit to give some highlights here and there. And after that, when the sculpture is still warm, or a little warm, you brush wax it on it. And you seal it off. And that's what you see here. You can still see the white here. The white tint is wax.
Oh, okay.
Okay, basically because of the weather, nature. And what you should be doing, and they do that here very consistently, the customer should really, especially with an outside sculpture, they should wax it. When it is warm weather, put some floor wax on it to keep it the right color. If you don't do that, for 10-15 years, it starts turning green.
Okay.
That's why you see the old sculptures, they're green.
Right.
Because of the copper in the material that makes the sculpture turn green.
Okay.
So you have to wax it once in a while. I think it's heavy, it's heavier than a regular person. So it's very thick bronze. It goes to the ground, you have to have pipe, you have to have fasteners and stuff like that. So there are tractors and trailers and all kinds of mechanisms to put this thing in the ground securely. Okay? And then they clean up the site, and then they put a cloth over it, and then people get invited to unveil the sculpture. And that time span can take weeks sometimes, you know. And that's really what it is. You cannot just unveil it at the same time. That's not, because all the cement people and the crew is still here working.
I hope you enjoyed this video. Please subscribe and ring the bell to be notified of my future videos. And be sure to choose one of my other Elvis videos here to watch next.